Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 18 of season 5. I'm Joshua Buckley with my co-host Paul LePage.
It still is.
We've got Alex in New York as producer.
Hello.
Danny on the socials in Baltimore.
Good evening.
And we have a first-time guest from Michigan Wolves. It's Glenn Nenninger.
Great to
How's
be
it
here,
going,
guys.
Glenn?
Great to be here. Going, could be going better. Wish my first appearance was a win day, but
Yeah, it happens. Teddy took like 3 years before he could be on after a win. So, well, we always like to find out the story when we have new guests on. So tell us, how did you become a Wolves fan?
so for me, my son growing up was in soccer, and we were always following it. And when we got into the Premier League, the whole relegation promotion battle was something that fascinated me. Living up here in Detroit with the Lions would have been relegated and not back into the NFL if the U.S. owners would ever allow such a thing, which they don't. You see that in MLS and the USL here. They don't even do that. They don't. There's no effort at the end to win a game, whereas in the Premier League you get all sorts of drama from 14 on down, mid-table on down. And so this was 2018, and so I really wanted to latch on to something, and the Wolves had an unbelievable season in the championship, with 99 points, automatic promotion, won the league. And I thought, well, are they going to go right back down? And so they were scrappy. They were excellent. I think the second best ever in the Premier League for a promoted side, finishing 7th, going to Europe, and having great success there, getting to the quarterfinals. So around this time of year, I think it was Boxing Day, in that next year, 2020, when Wolves faced City, and this is two-time champion City. They had already beaten them in the reverse fixture at City, and so Traore with the 2 goals, it was unbelievable. But that night at Molineux, on like Boxing Day or the day after Boxing Day, when Ederson gets the red, Raheem scores right after that, and then scores right after the break, and we come roaring back, through Traore again, and Raul, and Doherty wins it and stop it. I mean, and that was about it, so I was a Wolves fan, wanting that moment, and that was that moment for me. So ever since then, we haven't really looked back. So that's how I became a fan.
Has that been your favourite game, Glenn, or have others superseded it?
Yeah, I mean, that to me, I don't think I'll ever forget. You always hope for that because it's happened and you've seen it and we're capable. And you got a little taste of that with Brighton, right? If Tommy Doyle doesn't stop that 4-on-1, maybe the season's over, but certainly that's a comeback very similar to that one. We didn't go on to win, but still it felt like a win given our season and where we were at in the game there. So, yeah, for me, that City Wolves night at Molineux is definitely the favorite. And Raul is probably my favorite still, and seeing him come back after the disaster at, with the Arsenal header. The headbutt,
Literally the header.
Well, yeah, and so good for him. Glad that we were able to pull it off at Fulham, but boy, it isn't the momentum that you thought you were gonna keep and go forward.
Yeah, that game is still my favorite, the Man City game as well. So you mentioned Raul. Do you have a favorite current player?
So the Michigan Wolves here, that we have started, along with Joe, who's been a guest on here. Michigan Wolves wouldn't happen if it weren't for Joe. But we've got about 10 to 15 regulars for every weekend match. And we have it at a bar called Doyle's. So we were in Annapolis, and Joe was all over, but I went to Annapolis. We went to Premier League mornings in Chicago, and we got to meet some of the staff that Wolves had sent over, and they're going to get us a signed Doyle's jersey so we can hang it in Doyle's bar. So, I mean, of course, Tommy Doyle is we're always rooting for him up here.
That's Tommy fucking Doyle.
Tommy fucking Doyle. That's right.
I think when he signs, Paul, we need, like, if I ever get signature, I'm going to be like, no, Tommy, you can't just sign Tommy Doyle. You have to sign Tommy fucking Doyle. I bet he'd do it too. He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
So how'd you get involved with Michigan Wolves? I mean, obviously, you know Joe.
Well, since the start, back in 2020, I always wanted to find a bar. We have a couple of bars up here in Detroit that are massively supported for Liverpool and then for Arsenal, and they get 100 people any game, any day, and it's awesome. And so I would go there and I'd say, hey, how'd you do this? What's going on? And it's very difficult. One, we're not a Big Six team, and if somebody happens to be a fan of the Premier League, you know, it's usually not anyone but those teams. And so it's hard to get that. So I went down to Columbus and tried to find out what they did down there to start their club. And we went to other cities in hopes of being able to bring back what was successful there here. And lo and behold, I wasn't able to achieve that. And then, of course, what you do is you go to Annapolis to meet a guy who lives 5 miles from you, and you start a club.
There you go.
So I met Joe, and my girlfriend, his wife, his son, my son, all kind of latched on and got into this Doyle's bar that we found that accommodates us, and now we're on the bar finder and everything. So it's been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I don't know what to say at this point. It was 2-1 loss to West Ham. This had all the hits. Shitty defense, awful officiating, VAR fucking us over. I mean, what we got to do? So we decided, hey, what better way to dictate the show this time than to go no stupid question route, Alex?
Yeah, that's right. Good route to go. And of course, it's brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines, 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. The first no stupid question where we could kick off the discussion about the state of things comes from Andrew Hadfield on X, who says, is it stating the obvious once and for all that this is a Fosun problem and not a managerial problem? Not even Sir Alex Ferguson could succeed in this environment. This may be reinforced by Gary O'Neill himself in his post-match interview on Sky Sports, where he said, he was speaking to the net spend and the lack of Premier League ready replacements in the squad. He also spoke previously in the week about a number of players that they did buy who weren't meant to be Premier League starters this year. So we've talked a lot about Fosun and a lot about O'Neill, but I guess off this question, like, is it a little bit different this time, Paul?
I think it's really put them in the spotlight now that Lopetegui had the mystery around him. Like, was it him who's bailing, or was it actually genuine that he was being not supported by the club, goalposts are moving, all of that? And even prior with Large, it's like it wasn't that he was saying that he didn't even need support. Plenty of times he was going on record about the squad depth, need for signings, and things like that. So I'm quite like with O'Neill's comments tonight. I'm quite supportive of him in that respect to putting it out there, for saying what it is. Because again, mentioned it previously, like the investment just doesn't fall at the team. The investment falls at the coach as well. So if he was brought in as an inferior coach to other Premier League managers that he's coming up against, which sadly for us has been proven, and not only at Wolves, like it's looking like it was a masterstroke for Bournemouth to get rid when they did and have their replacement come in. So it's like you're not investing in the squad, you're not investing in a capable enough manager to do that. So I still feel for him. I still think that based on all of that, like lots of what he talks about is true, and I think it's going to take. It would have took someone totally special to do more than he did last season, and it's going to take someone miraculous to turn around this ship, because like it's just going to show as these weeks go by, as these players are on display, that we are firmly in a relegation battle. If anyone thinks we're coming out of this and even going to be comfortable with four or five games to go again, you've got to really question that. We're in this till the bitter end. I've got a horrible feeling.
So I want to comment on Gary's comments today. Okay. I get it. We've all been saying it. Fosun not doing a good job investing. But let's not act like he got no help over summer. He got the best number 9 that we've had since Raul got hurt. He got a fucking Brazilian starting midfielder. Starter for Team Brazil. Okay, there wasn't the investment in center back. I get it, but they also said, well, he wants to play a black 4, so why do we need 5 center backs? But to sit there and be like, well, acting like, well, all I got was Pedro Lima and Rodrigo Gomez. Like, no. You got Andre and Strand Larson, who you could argue are 2 of our 4 most talented players. I mean, it's just, I'm tired of the complaining, man. And would Neto have fixed the defense on this team? Because that's ultimately what the problem is. Okay. Yeah, Max Kilman leaving, we didn't get a replacement. That's a big issue. But then to bring up Neto, I don't think our record is any different with Pedro Neto right now. That could be me. Danny?
Yeah, I don't know. Just as a slight counterpoint, I was just reflecting on the fact that, someone asked like if, previous managers had said these things and isn't it a pattern and whatever. And I said like, yeah, I mean, everyone since Nuno and including Nuno asked for more signings. All managers do. And I think that like with each successive one, increasingly it's easier to see the point because of the players that we've sold versus the ones we brought in. I mean, there are players who we've brought that I think are exciting, who are like talented, who may come good at some point. I think that, players like, for instance, Boubacar Traore and Jean-Victor Bellegarde don't get like enough credit for what they do have currently, but it's indisputable that players like that have been brought in to replace players who have, thousands of minutes of Premier League experience. The fact that now somebody at NBC has figured out, so they keep repeating it, which is that we've had 3 successive captains sold. And I think, it's perfectly fine to justify each one of those sales, like the course had been run with Neves. I think the way that we played had evolved beyond what we used him for. Same thing with Cody. Kilman's a little bit of a different situation, but those are explainable. But the problem is what you've replaced them with, and the fact that we've ended up in a situation where we have a much less physically dominant team than we had under Nuno. When you go through that team and look at Bali and Saiz and even Doherty, which is part of the reason that he had a good game today, is because he's just good in the air. Even Johnny, for a not very tall guy, was good in the air. And then you look at us conceding from corners constantly. It's it's kind of no wonder. And so I do feel for him, like Paul said, that, you know, in a lot of ways he's been hung out to dry, with not really like a solution in his back pocket to say, well, but here's what we're going to do. Now, that being said, I agree. Like with Lodge and like with Lopetegui, I thought, well, you've got the players you've got, so please just continue. The difference is that we've now seen, you know, 15 games under O'Neill where this defense is clearly broken, and I don't think that it's just on him that we're where we're at with that back line.
When it comes to the O'Neill comments, though, I think the one thing we have to mention is that he's made very clear at every opportunity over the past couple of weeks to say, when he's describing the situation and some of the restrictions that they might face, and Lima not being meant to be a Premier League player this year and Gomez being a backup at best, is that he knew all of this coming in. So he knew what he signed up for. It's a tonal shift from the standpoint of Lopetegui being misled, from Lodge being kind of post Nuno, where we felt like maybe with this we can get right back to competing for Europe. Like that's the part for me that's worrying, because we want him out because you've just got to make a change. But at this point, Fosun has tipped their hand enough, and we've gone through enough managers now where everybody knows what Wolves is at this point. So I agree that we have to make a change, and they're going to make a change. They're likely already trying to find that person. But that person is not necessarily going to be an exciting person. Like, he's going to be probably the level of manager that Gary O'Neill is. And like
Right.
a season and a half of Gary O'Neill with what Fosun is willing to spend is what you got. And I don't know that the next guy is going to be able to provide the hope and excitement that Gary O'Neill provided at times last year when we were doing the double over Chelsea, doing the double over Spurs, had that challenger mentality back, and it fell apart at the end because of injuries. Like, that was the closest thing to the Wolves that we all fell in love with, that Glenn was describing, you know, when we beat City. And that's, yeah, I'm, it's crazy now that that's just the boat we're in, and O'Neill is resigned to it. The fans are resigned to it. And I think that we could throw names out all we want of different guys, but like any guy who would take this club to where we want it to go, other than surviving, right? Like to actually move on, isn't going to come here, because they now know, and they will be told up front that at all we're trying to do is just stay in the league. And that's really deflating. Like, I don't even know how to feel anymore. That's why I don't care if Gary O'Neill manages another game or not. It's like, it's almost irrelevant at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that's shocking is the fact that they buy the club 8 years ago for $45 million. It's worth $400 million. You pay your manager the third worst in the league. It's not an attractive position from a standpoint of Graham Potter or some David Moyes or someone who's been in other places to come in and take over. You know, Fosun's strategy seems to be just selling off players and making a profit and hopefully staying in the middle of the table at this point. And although for me, right, I mean, it's very frustrating to watch. And now it's been year after year, because you can say that finishing 14th, 13th, with no real strategy. And the other clubs don't put up with it. Chelsea fires Tuchel to get better, right? United, not say all these other teams. And it's like, well, we're not valueless, right? It's an expensive club. Someone would come in, the Saudis or somebody would come in and buy this from Fosun, and they'd probably get over 500 million pounds. So it's very frustrating to see how they manage and how they continue to go forward with this. But yeah, to your point, Gary O'Neill makes $1.5 million. It's nothing compared to to all of them. And it's like, what then you bring in? And the names that are thrown out there, you're going to pay them $2 million, and then we're going to be in this position. We're going to be at Christmas next year saying the same things if we don't have that long-term solution.
I know a lot of high school coaches that would do a better job getting people in position to defend set pieces that would take it for way less money than Gary O'Neill's being paid. That's what just struggles me. You are a top 20 team in the biggest league in the world, and you can't guard a fucking set piece to save your life. What are we doing? This is high school shit. I'm mad tonight. I'm sorry.
17 first half goals conceded.
Oh, I'm mad. Well,
Not good.
also, there was another reason to be mad, and that was because we got the VAR, shaft up the booty hole again today. Not one penalty that seemed to be pretty obvious and should have called. At least we scored right after that with Doc. It was the second one to me that should have been on review an obvious penalty, Paul. In what world does stamping on someone's foot, not getting the ball, not equate to a foul, and in the box, hence a penalty?
Yeah, I really want to hear that line for line explanation of why it was declined for, because it was something like not altering the momentum of the player or some other BS like that. But again, any other blade of grass, you see it time and time again, that a player gets closed down, protects the ball, gets the minutest trip and goes down, and a foul's given. So if that's not magnified on in the box, I don't know what is. I don't know what is a penalty if that wasn't it in this new environment of everything having this this microscopic review and lines and all this shit. This is what it should be there for. So even the extent of I think it's bullshit that they're even told to go to the screen, even because if that happens, it's going to be overturned. But even for him to go to the screen and say, oh, okay, I recognize that, I made a mistake, I didn't see it as clearly as this angle showing, that would have been a lot better than some dickhead in an office saying that it's not impacted the player. I just don't understand it. Well, I do understand it. Like, they're looking at the shirts, it's 19-1, and it's us again. And tonight is just all the other circumstances are overshadowing it somewhat, but it just goes to show how shitty it's been.
This was what the Premier League Match Center Twitter account tweeted out about it. It said, the referee's call of no penalty for the challenge by Mavropanis on Bellegarde was checked and confirmed by VAR, who deemed the referee's call was not clear and obviously wrong. The referee could not see it. He was not in position to make the call. So for that to say, well, it wasn't, how is it not clear? He stamped on his foot. How is it not wrong? He can't see it. At first, with the view we had, which was the view of the referee, the same angle, it looked like Bellegarde just kind of went down. So I was like, why are we even checking this?
Why is he going down in the box?
Yeah.
Either you book him for simulation, or you think, oh shit, something must have happened to knock him off course. Let me at least have a look at it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then Martin Tyler's old butt sitting there saying, well, he took a couple of steps after that, so that makes it not a penalty. Oh, I'm sorry, but if he fell down and it wasn't ruled out, like Paul said, that would have been simulation. So he gets a card. The players have been taught, if you go down in the box, nowadays you're probably going to get simulation. So what? Because he tried to play on that's the old Kilman thing. Oh, Kilman didn't react enough to getting headbutted.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what has happened is, because of this, I have a solution, and that is I drink my coffee now out of this new mug that helps me deal with the situation, and I feel just a little bit better every time. But yeah,
that is a glory. Where did you get that? I assume that was custom made.
It was custom made, yeah. So I got that as a gift for Christmas. But yeah, it's because of last year. Everyone thinks it's very funny and that I but yeah, even the first one though clearly nudged It's a foul. It's a foul anywhere else.
Anywhere else. Anywhere.
And you don't want to call it in the box.
Their excuse for that was, well, it happened. The contact was before he entered the box. Okay, well, it's a foul right there. Then, if that's what you're saying, then it should be a foul outside the box, even though it clearly wasn't. Danny, you're doing a lot of smiling tonight.
It's just, I mean, it wouldn't be El Sackico with Gary O'Neill involved if there weren't these two decisions. It honestly was almost fun. It was like an homage, to last season.
That's what I say. It was the greatest hits today. It was a great.
Yeah,
hit.
exactly. And I just don't see it was outside of the box. The contact clearly continues inside the box. We all know that if that is one of the big teams, if that's Mo Salah going down, because Santi Bueno just kind of shoved him as he's coming through on goal. That's 1000% a penalty on any day. I don't know.
It takes less time for VAR to confirm than they did to confirm that West Ham's second goal was offsides, even though dude's his whole body's offside, and it's let's zoom in here. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, we've expended all of the words to describe this because it's the same thing that's happened to us all last season.
Same shit. Well, Paul, you said last week you don't trust Vosen to get the next appointment right, which I think is very fair. And it sounds like they're struggling already for the succession plan. Johnny Phillips of Sky Sports and a one-time guest on Whole Lot of Wolves said that West Ham result insignificant. The die have already been cast. Oh, that's okay. That's decent news. Football department have met with prospective candidates and will continue to do so. Okay. Delay in making a change is indicative of current issues around succession planning. Huh? Paul?
The only way I can give them any benefit of the doubt up to a point with all of this is that tells me that they're either talking to or want someone as number one choice that's probably still in a job elsewhere. In that, if it was a Graham Potter or a Moyes, they'd have them lined up and be in role by now. The only issue there is whether they have been approached and they've turned it down, which, to points previously mentioned, it's a massive risk for someone like Potter, for definite, to take a gamble on this role where he's going from Chelsea, which was obviously a dumpster fire at the time, but he's had this time out. Now he's got to come into a scathing relegation battle. If he botches this in terms of taking us down, then he's screwed when it comes to ever getting that type of status back. So I can see that he may have been offered and turned it down on that. I could see Moyes not wanting the bullshit that's going with it, potentially relegation battle and dodgy owners, not too different set of circumstances to West Ham and what their directors and owners are known for. So it's like, are they now going into the this is the horrible part, and they're now going into the realms of the Michael Beale type candidates that we can't get a Premier League caliber manager, so have we got to try and take a punt on someone in the top echelons of the Championship, in that maybe they'll be potentially a little cheaper, and it's going to be a risk for us and for them to have someone coming in who probably hasn't got that experience like O'Neill has, trying to turn this cluster around and keep us up. So I can see why it might have been difficult up to this point, but now it's leading me to say that they want someone who's still in the current role, and now you're picking some names like our friend down the street at the Hawthorns, maybe at a stretch, someone like Michael Carrick at Middlesbrough. That's the type of manager that I could think them trying to get, but like who knows if that's going to come off or not.
Glenn, what can Jeff Shee say at this point in an interview that a candidate like Graham Potter wouldn't look at him and go, "You're full of shit," because he can't say, "Well, yeah, next summer we're gonna spend money. We'll back you." That's a lie. We all know it's a lie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When a manager comes in, they want their group. They want to get rid of the people that they don't want. They want to bring in those people. And, like it was already mentioned here, Lopetegui might have been told one thing and saw an entirely different situation when he got there, and he leaves. And then Gary O'Neill is just happy to be here and was going to fight and claw and get whatever he could out of it. And now his stance is, look, I've been given a championship side, and I'm expected to play all of these teams. And, we don't agree with that. I think that the club has talent. I think that a manager who isn't working, it could be attractive from the talent perspective. And, if he could come in and say, look, I'll take over, I'll keep you up, and next year I need, a center back. Goalie's a mess, right? Your keepers, that whole situation. Sa can't stop fouling people, and then he can't stop them from scoring on him after he fouls. And so,
which is a problem when you're the goalkeeper.
So, yeah, I would think that somebody has to come in here and stand up to Fosun, because, like I say, it's not that long ago where Wolves were, nipping at the heels of Europe. Even Conference League, like you see West Ham. It wasn't that long ago. And so that's what I'd like to see. Someone hungry, someone potentially established. I don't, if we go cherry picking off of the championship, like Scott Parker or Carrick.
Oh, God help.
Maybe, what I've been reading is Steve Cooper, and he's already been fired twice, right? I don't want that for $1.5 million.
Jeff doesn't want to pay for his dental care.
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating to me. They've got so much money. Fosun is, totally profitable as a company overall, and the club's value is 10 times what they had, and he should just spend it. I don't understand why he wouldn't be a better steward of a club that doesn't even belong to you. It belongs to the supporters of Wolverhampton. Right, and that's basically what it comes down to, and they're not acting like that.
Danny?
Yeah, I just something interesting came up in the chat with Joey talking about how we have a very talented squad. I think, and why wouldn't a top-notch manager want to come in? I think there's something to that. I had a little back and forth chat with our friend Adam Cohen today on Twitter about this, and how I just think that I'm not going to sit here and say like Graham Potter is likely or even better than 50-50 or something, but I do think that there's an element where a lot of managers, especially top managers, have a pretty big ego. You kind of have to be there. It's kind of like with politicians, like you have to be a bit of a narcissist in terms of even wanting to do the work in the first place. And so we might look at a situation and say, this looks terrible. These owners look terrible. This is almost doomed. And they think like, but I could be the one who actually keeps them up. Like they believe in themselves like that. So there is that element. And because we don't have any concrete links, I just want to tell people like, never count anything out, because like truly anything could happen. We thought that the ship had sailed with Lopetegui before, and then that turned around. Now, back to your original question of what does Jeff Shee even try to sell them on? I think that's really astute, because like best case scenario, he's telling them, look, yes, we're doing this self-sustainable thing, but like we have a plan. We want to, buy low, sell high. We want to bring in the best young talent and have them grow into it and have that fund the transfers and whatever. And they would just answer and say, well, that takes years and years. And Brighton worked very hard to make that happen. And even if you have a slightly better hit record, which I think is pretty debatable for signings, you're still a long way off from funding all of your transfers that way. If you look at every other club in the league, apart from like City, like a team that has like an insane academy, or Chelsea, where you literally can bring up youngsters like that. These are pipe dreams, and they're good dreams to have. Like Wolves should want to have the best academy in the country and to be funding their whole club through that. But if it's going to happen, it's going to take literal decades. And so I need you to commit to spending regularly in each transfer window so that we remain competitive. And I don't think that that's like a crazy controversial thing for a prospective manager to want.
Well, they're not going to be self-sustainable with that championship money. That's for sure. And look, I've said this before. Owning a soccer club is not a money-making thing. You cannot make it. Look at the finances. It just doesn't happen. This needs to be the plaything. It's like the New York Mets now with Steve Cohen. It's a plaything. We need to be a billionaire's plaything. That's the only way to really be successful. So speaking of Jeff Shee, Alex, we have a question from our favorite XXX sexy sexual.
Yeah. The Twitterless Todd DeWitt emailed hello@wholelotofwolves.com and asked, do you think Shee will disappoint himself as the next manager to save a few pennies? Man, I would love to see one game of that.
Yeah.
Would you? I mean, who would he have any chance of winning any match, Paul?
Well, there's some very Jerry Jones vibes to all of that. Or just some of the crazy shit that he comes out with, like Jeff Shee's letters and what have you. So he could probably fluke one. I don't know how, but knowing his luck, he probably would, and then think he was the Messiah. So it just, it sends a shiver. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't think even Jeff Shee is stupid enough for that. But like you, I would love to see it. I mean, I can only imagine how toxic Molineux was. Like, what if they'd gotten rid of Lopetegui before that last home game against Everton, and they just had Jeff Shee in the dugout? Can you imagine the jeers and the noise that would be happening during that game? Even like an end of season game that meant nothing. Oh my God.
See, I guess if he were to manage a single game, he would probably have to take that like Friday press conference, and it'd be worth it just for that, just for it to be open season with reporters asking him questions in the current state of Wolves. I would actually love that. Oh my God.
I can see Jeff Shee walking into the locker room and going, "Men, the gravity of reality is too strong. By the time you're my age, you'll realize that everything you once thought mattered so much turns out to mean very little. You must know that a person's ability to discern the truth is directly proportional to his knowledge." At which point Mario Lemina would throw a chair at him.
Again, all things I would pay to see.
Yeah. I mean, Lemina's not far from taking that next step, right? I mean,
who will be our one listener that knows where that quote comes from?
I'm gonna guess Stu.
Yeah.
And honestly, you guys, if you think about Jeff Shee, it's not that difficult to figure it out. So, Glenn, do you know where it's from?
I don't. I don't.
Come on, Danny, you gotta know. Okay, well, we'll let Stu say what it is, or maybe Todd in the comments can come through. So, speaking of Lemina, I mean, he lost his shit after the game. He threw down a West Ham player. He then it looked like he was trying to go and clap the fans, and Tadabo was like all in his face. And then Tony Gomez came over and he pushed him. And then Derry came over and he pushed him too. What do we make of this, Paul?
Like no idea. I think when it goes from right at the start when it happened, there was something said between him and Bowen, and that's what kicked it all off. So it was after the whistle. It wasn't like they were jostling for the ball like as the very last play. So like I'm guessing maybe something was said or a handshake wasn't forthcoming. And I think if I'm to guess, what I probably say is that it tipped Lamina over the edge. He went into it, but like straight away, he's surrounded by a ton of West Ham players, and there's no other Wolves player around him. And as he's going on, I just see him like gesturing, like the part to Totti, he's like pointing his arm, like, "Where were you?" Or not necessarily. Maybe it's a reflection of the game. It's like, not were you just you didn't have my back right now, but you haven't had my back all night in terms of being here on the pitch. And I think he was trying to brush people off. And I think the issue with Derry was probably like has Lamina being the captain, being a senior player, being the voice of the dressing room, potentially was that altercation just one that I'm done with you, I'm done with O'Neill. This goes to prove like the lack of support and the lack of direction that we've had. So I don't know. It's just another like highlight of how much a dumpster fire it is right at the moment. Let alone like it's not just down on the coaching; it's they're getting after each other as well, which you never want to see.
So Nag on X, Glenn, had this to say: if you lose confidence in your boss, do you square up to them in front of your colleagues and customers?
Right. Yeah, it was for me to see him totally out of control after the game was over with the armband on, with your own. Now that one West Ham guy, and I forget who it was like ridiculously long standing around him trying to calm him down, and he did
who was the one who punched Lopetegui in the face.
So that guy, that would make me angry too, and he's got to recognize, he's got to have some situational awareness right there, and he's got to get away. But then when Totti comes up, you can't do that. I don't see De Bruyne doing that, or Son doing that, or Odegaard doing that, or the captains who behave in a way that is professional even when you're down, because people are going to look to you to see how to act. And I understand that if you're in the moment, it's got to be during the game. It can't be the last play of the game that was meaningless. And, Bowen, I think Bowen's captain, right? I mean, and for those two to get into it, say your piece and then walk off the pitch, acknowledge the supporters that, took the train, spent their money, sat in the terrible section in London Stadium that they give you, and then talk about it amongst yourselves in the dressing room. But to make a display, it's a bad look for the Wolves, and the Wolves don't need any help looking bad.
I think the Todibo involvement may have been down to some friendship. Now I haven't done the comparison of who played where in France and everything, but that's where they both came up. But for him to be constantly at his side, he wasn't trying to agitate, I don't think.
No, I don't either.
So that's all I could put that one down to. But
they played together in Nice for a couple of years, and I had to double check that Todibo wasn't an international teammate, but it just comes down to they played a couple of seasons together at Nice, because it did seem friendly, but even still, like, it felt like most of his own players on Wolves were like he clearly just needs to be left alone. Like, dude, read the room.
Yeah,
Like,
right. That's what.
Yeah. I did tell a boss one time in a meeting, if she would do her fucking job, then I could do mine. That's probably the closest I got to Lamina. Now I didn't have that job for very much longer.
Right.
I still stand by my comment though.
No Stupid Questions is presented by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. So whether you're celebrating a Wolves victory or winding down after a day at work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of California's wine country with every sip. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com and use the promo code WOLVES for a 15% discount on your wine purchases. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their products responsibly and in moderation.
thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines for bringing you the No Stupid Questions that we sprinkled in all throughout the show. As you heard there, you could use the promo code WOLVES on the site to get a discount, a 50% discount on your order. Also of note, if you didn't see this already, there is special Wolves wine. In fact, some Wolves wine has made its way to Houston, Texas, I believe, already.
Right.
You can
But
see
not to the East Coast.
not to the East Coast. Danny and I will have to wait another day or so to receive ours. But as you can see in the middle of your screen there, the 1-pack Sauvignon Blanc and 1-pack Red Blend. Very cool Wolves branded wine with a Christmas touch, courtesy of the Buckley family there. Available now for a limited time. So go ahead and not only support Esfuerzo Wines, but show some solidarity. 1-pack. Buy it now. Yeah, I'm excited. I've got a whole bunch of these and other wines coming my way to New York on Wednesday, just in time for all the the holiday party circuits and Friendsgiving. Well, not Friendsgivings, but whatever, friends, Christmases, etc.
I'm thinking I'm going to wait until Wolves win a game before popping it open, because I've
Lord.
heard that wine does get better after years of unopening it. So
Yeah, we got to save the. I think you got to save one for something. You got to just set an event, the hiring of somebody, or a goal milestone. 20 goals or something. I don't know. I mean, Cunha could get there, right? You got to save one of them for something good.
yeah.
It's a
Maybe I
boxing
can think of a new
over
dark
Man
arts thing with the wine. I don't know.
Yeah, a Boxing Day, like Paul was saying.
beat Man United and
Beating the Man United, yeah.
Open the red.
Get a nice bottle of espresso.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good point. I guess this leads me to what I feel like was my kind of one no stupid question you had at the end of this. It's can we still think of some things to look forward to? I'm searching for some joy here.
Genuinely not.
Okay.
This is what totally gets me with this current situation, that even with Lopetegui, when he was announced, you had some hope, and maybe it was this was the original guy. You had all of that, the dream teams finally together. You had some just what he could bring and what he could do. You just had a really good feeling that he would be able to transform that team. And even to that extent, it was he wouldn't be coming if they weren't going to back him in the January window. And that quickly came to fruition as well, because Cunha was announced even before the window had opened. So
It was on Christmas Day.
You had all of that momentum going into his first game, and now it's just the lowest of the low. All of those all of those possible candidates for the role, when you see the odds from the bookmakers, they don't give me half of the encouragement that appointment of Lopetegui did back when he first came in. So sorry, Alex, no.
It's not your fault, Paul. It's not your fault.
Well, guys, We do have a match on Saturday against Ipswich at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Real quick, yes or no, starting with Paul, is Gary O'Neill on the touchline? Paul,
No.
Danny.
I kind of think he is.
I said one word, Danny.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes. Glenn,
I'm a yes.
Alex.
Yes.
I am also a yes. God, fuck our lives, man.
And it's because we've all been convinced by Paul's argument that they don't have someone lined up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's perfectly happy to just manage he's basically like an interim manager at this point. Like he knows he's gone and he's just gonna take the reins until, maintain the reins until they have a new guy. And when that period is, who fucking knows, man? If they're just now going, they just got a round of no's from the obvious candidates. So now like the search is really on. That feels like it's gonna take a little.
Well, Paul, due to yellow cards today, one by Joe Gomez, one by Ladina during the fall break, that means we should see an appearance from Doyle, right?
You'd hope, but there's probably still some concoction that somehow forces like Bellegarde to get the start in some weird hybrid 5-3-2 something or whatever that's totally ineffective at home. But I'm just like, you could get back to basics, even with the pieces of this team. I just want to go back to basics, have Tommy Doyle, Andre as a midfield 2, 4-4-2, play Cunha free roll, get closer to Strand Larson, play someone more defensive on one of the wings, like play Ran as the left-sided midfielder in front of Totti, and then play someone attacking on the right if it's Rodrigo Gomez, or if it's Forbes, have some attacking intent down that opposite flank where you've got some defensive support in Semedo. I think it's just gone to prove now that we can't defend in a 5 or a 4. So at least try and outscore the fuckers. And I'd play 2 centre backs if it's Dawson and Bueno. Like the pace of that totally scares me. But just like stick your head on it and clear it and do what centre backs can. And that would be me. I'd go 4-4-2, old school. Just don't mess around. Just see what we can do.
As long as Bueno doesn't try and bring it into the final third again, like he did in this fucking game, like the one where he gave it up and it's like pass the ball, Santi. Said, what are you doing?
Speaking of, we all noticed that Max Kilman had his obligatory run forward into the box for West Ham, and I was convinced that was going to result in a goal somehow.
And the obligatory mention of his futsal background, so
yeah,
I'd missed that.
Again,
now, Glenn,
greatest hits.
Glenn, you have kids, so who's the bigger baby face, Tommy Doyle or Ed Sheeran?
Oh, yeah, I got to go with Ed Sheeran, right? I got to be honest, though, for him to be the shirt sponsor instead of another gambling site or something
It's
like
refreshing.
that. Oh, my God. I mean, it's so cool that he grew up a supporter and he took that over and said, no more 8898 or whatever the Man X bet, and so yeah, that's good. But yeah, definitely a baby face. Yeah, I mean, he'd be carded going into the pub.
Yeah, man, I see the Ipswich players in those kits and I'm like, man, I want to take a photograph of the shape of you.
It gives me the shivers.
Gonna make that a thing. Gives the shivers. Paul, let's go with predictions here because it's already 55 minutes. So yeah, we all got 0 again. What a shock. We're just like wolves. We're all sucking it up. Danny, 12 points. Yay. Alex with 8. Paul in the guest spot with 4, and then me with 3. Hopefully Jeff Shee is my chairman, and he's just dragging his feet before relegating or kicking me to the curb. Glenn, what do you have for a prediction?
So Ipswich, then Leicester, then Boxing Day with United. These are the 3 games that Gary O'Neill, if he's going to be around like most of us thought, absolutely has to perform. Going back to Molineux, I say they get a 2-1 victory at the weekend and then start to build some new momentum.
Oh, it's the fresh optimism on this show that kills you. Danny?
Yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite.
Oh my God.
I think the pain continues and we lose 2-1. It might even be that we lead for a significant portion and then lose 2-1.
It's not funny, but it is.
So
Alex.
I don't know what a Wolves win even looks like anymore. I don't know what I want it to look like. There's I don't know what name I want to be called off the bench when I know they're about to make a change. None of it makes sense. It's a complete mess.
I would
So-
shit against the wall.
I feel like I don't know why I'm laughing either, but I agree with Danny. I feel like I feel like this somehow gets even worse and crazier to a point where you just have to laugh at it. So I'm gonna say, I guess for the sake of being different to try to gain some points in the standings, I'll say 3-1 Ipswich.
Oh my God. Paul.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm not going that bad, but I'm going for a very bad 1-1 draw. It's
1-1
not
draw.
big, it's not big. It's not clever.
I mean, if we lose this game, we're pretty much fucked, right? We're gonna get relegated. Now, I know it's early, but you can't give up 3 points to Ipswich.
Yeah, I mean, no. The strict answer is no, not mathematically, obviously. And I think there are still lots of bad teams in this league that you could surpass. But obviously, losing to Ipswich really doesn't help. So
At home, yeah.
yeah.
No, you can't do that. Maybe I get some points here. You know what? It's gonna be up, Alex.
So I kind of forgot about some of the cards. I was gonna say, here's where I would channel a little bit of optimism. I'm not changing my prediction. I'm just saying, there's a chance we might see the most sensible midfield combination for Wolves, and it only happens because we have no other fucking choice. Because everyone lost their minds in that game, and Zhao was about to punch a ref, and Mario Lemina literally did shove a coach. So. If there's a Fulham where the hell did that performance come from? It could be sparked by the fact that Andre and Doyle are probably the 2 most complimentary players that never get to play together. So maybe. Still say 3-1.
Still say 3-1. You know what? Fuck it. 5-4 Wolves.
Good Lord.
Oh man.
A 9-goal thriller.
A 9-goal thriller. One of those where it's yay, we won, but we gave up 4 to Ipswich.
At what cost?
At what cost? What cost? I wonder if the West Ham fans were feeling that today. Yay, we won. But
I can tell you, because I spend too much time on Reddit, that there are many West Ham fans who feel like they missed their chance to get Lopetegui out of their club.
Sorry to do that to them.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Blame the refs. Glenn, it was a pleasure having you on tonight.
Really fun. Thanks for having me. I've been watching, been fan myself, so it's really great to come on here.
So tell us how everybody can get a hold of you before, and if you're on Twitter, don't give your password like Todd DeWitt did.
Okay, well, so the Wolves or email is wolvesmichiganusa@gmail.com. So Wolves, Michigan, USA at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll keep growing it up here, and maybe I'll get some of that 1-pack wine up in the Midwest here. So place an order from our friends there and see how that goes too.
Promo code Wolves. Promo code
I like
Wolves.
it. Yeah, that'll be good.
So that brings this week's show to an end. Thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials. You, the listener, this show is for you more than it is for us. So thank you for your participation. If you've not stumbled across our YouTube channel, please check it out for the visuals to go to the audio, and like, subscribe there, all help with our exposure. So we will be back this time next week. Gonna see what happens at that Ipswich game and then preview a trip away to Leicester. So I don't think a lot more can be said. We can't go very much more down. So up the mighty Wolves.